Li Muqing unexpectedly obtained a mysterious bracelet from the miscellaneous room at home, which was bound to a future world. However, this world is actually a wasteland apocalypse. Fortunately, I met two lovely girls as soon as I passed by, and from then on, I stood firm. Is the real world being bullied? Humph, weapons and equipment from the future world make you lie down one by one. Insufficient resources in the future world. Exporting a continuous supply of materials from the real world is enough to enable Li Muqing to establish a large force. The exchange of resources between two worlds has made Li Muqing's life once again magnificent. Chapter 1. Mysterious Bracelet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I'll give you another week. If you don't move out again, my brothers and I won't be able to talk to you properly anymore. Remember, this is my final warning to you. Bang! A fierce and vicious young man with a big and round waist, carrying a dozen or so flowing auras, who didn't seem like a good person at first glance, was blocking a dilapidated grocery store. After speaking harshly, the strong man even smashed the only relatively intact glass counter in the grocery store with a stick, and then led his little brothers away. There was only a messy grocery store left, and inside the grocery store, Li Muqing looked helpless. Are all these villains so arrogant now? Sigh, it's just that I don't have the ability to hold on to this final family business. Shaking his head, Li Muqing squatted down and began to tidy up the clutter on the ground. Li Muqing, who had just graduated from college and had not found a job, went home to inherit the grocery store left by his father. A year ago, Li's father passed away unexpectedly, leaving only this grocery store called Ordinary behind. Originally, Li Muqing had a thought to just stay by this grocery store and live a life. Unexpectedly, 2 months ago, this piece of land was designated as a development zone, followed by mobilization and signing, and then demolition. However, the Feihong Group, which is responsible for developing this area, is simply a gang of gangsters who wash away the white. They send people to constantly threaten and lure nearby neighbors, keeping the relocation price extremely low. The surrounding crowd was made to mourn and complain, wanting to sue the officials, only to find that the people of Feihong Group were well informed and had no one to make decisions for them. Under helplessness, the vast majority of people could only compromise and obediently sign an agreement to leave. Finally, Li Muqing, who was alone and carefree, became the only male household in this area. In fact, he is not unable to move either. If the conditions given by Feihong Group are suitable, he can also move out in minutes. But the compensation given by Feihong Group for demolition cannot even open a new grocery store, making it difficult for him to survive. But now Li Muqing is alone, and Feihong Group has some ways to deal with him. Now that a month has passed, Li Muqing feels that if he doesn't leave, he will probably be forced to death. Under helplessness, he could only choose to compromise. After a simple tidying up of the grocery store, Li Muqing closed the door and walked into the warehouse, ready to pack his things. It's better to tidy up early. Maybe at some point, I'll be beaten to death by those thugs. While lamenting the unfairness of fate, Li Muqing tidied up the clutter that had been stored for a long time. Hey, what is this? After tidying up for a while, Li Muqing suddenly saw a bracelet with a very sci-fi style and couldn't help but pick it up to play with. Most of the clutter piled up in this room was left by his father, and Li Muqing had never tidied it up before. Suddenly, he saw a stylish bracelet made of unknown material. It was impossible to say that he was not curious. Dad is quite fashionable, I don't know if I can bring it with me. After playing for a while, Li Muqing liked it more and more, so she put the bracelet on her hand. Don't even mention it, this bracelet is quite suitable for him, he can put it on as soon as he wears it. Not bad, it looks very trendy. In the future, when I go out to play, I'll have another bragging toy. Li Muqing was very satisfied with the bracelet and was about to lower her head to continue packing, when suddenly she felt a slight pain like a needle prick coming from her wrist. What is the situation? Li Muqing raised her hand and found that the bracelet was emitting a faint light. This is not over yet, there is actually a mechanical sound of electronic synthesis coming from inside the bracelet. The energy check is complete, the energy is sufficient. The main program is completed. Start searching for the plane world. Positioning completed, binding in progress. Binding successful, about to start the transfer program, transfer target. A 657498 stuck spit plane. Countdown 5, 4, 3, 2. A series of sounds had already frightened Li Muqing, and he had no reaction at all, let alone could not hear the meaning of the sound emitted by the bracelet. It wasn't until he heard the countdown of the bracelet that he realized something extraordinary was about to happen. Hey, what's going on? Don't count, but explain it clearly. 1. Transfer program started. Then, the bracelet ignored Li Muqing's words, and the countdown ended on its own. Then a burst of white light flashed by, and Li Muqing had already disappeared into place. Where is this? When her gaze returned, Li Muqing realized that she had arrived at a strange place. A thick layer of clouds floated in the sky, and the sun could only spit out some sunlight through the tiny cracks in the clouds. It was supposed to be summer time, but Li Muqing, wearing short sleeves, felt a hint of coolness. Surrounded by dilapidated villas, a magnificent group of villas exudes a sense of desolation. The outer layers of each house are covered in traces of time, with shattered windows and overgrown plants covering the surroundings. There are even many houses that have collapsed halfway or even completely, with only piles of rubble proving their existence. Am I crossing over? Is this another world? Recalling the words from the bracelet just now, Li Muqing suddenly realized that she seemed to have encountered something unexpected. Transmission successful, all parameters are normal. For the first teleportation, you will stay in this world for 60 minutes and return in 60 minutes. Please make reasonable use of it, Master. The sound of the bracelet came again, as if telling Li Muqing what the situation was now. What the hell are you? Looking down at the SCI.FI bracelet, Li Muqing's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Unexpectedly, I was transported to another world because of a bracelet. This is the most anticipated thing in his dreams after watching countless anime and novels. It actually happened now. And according to the meaning of the bracelet, he should be able to go back. This is simply off the charts. Li Muqing has never seen this kind of thing that can be transmitted between the original world and the other world in anime. At the same time, Li Muqing also realized how much opportunity he had gained. As long as the two worlds are not parallel worlds with the same time progress, and as long as they are slightly different, I can use the information gap and resource gap to earn large profits. In this way, Feihong Group is still a fart. Damn it, if you want to bully me, wait for me. I must make you look good. Li Muqing secretly made a decision to make good use of this opportunity and strengthen her own strength. Not to mention anything else, at least let the Feihong Group, which bullies itself, taste the pain of being bullied. Just what kind of world is this now? Li Muqing decided to explore preliminarily first. Chapter 2. Traverse Function. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After boldly walking around for 2 laps, Li Muqing confirmed that his current destination should be a villa area. More precisely, it is an abandoned villa area. Because from various traces, it appears that this place has been abandoned for more than 10 years, and almost all the previous things in the house have been looted, leaving only some scrap metal. However, Li Muqing still demonstrated his ability to pick up scraps and scraped a gray gold necklace and a good-looking diamond ring from a piece of ruins. After a small gain, Li Muqing became even more motivated, and then saw a stagnant date in a house. October 10, 2154. When she saw this date, Li Muqing was stunned. If it weren't for a prank, this should be the world over 100 years from now. But what about people? Why doesn't even have a personal image? And in over 100 years, technology should be very advanced, right? Why is this place in a mess? With a heart full of confusion, Li Muqing began to expand his search circle, but unfortunately, as a newcomer, he didn't dare to make too much noise. Unconsciously, I searched for less than 10 houses and prepared for a 1-hour stay. This time traveling, apart from picking up 2 pieces of jewelry, it can be said that everything else was futile. Well, I can't say that either. He also knew that the time here was more than 100 years different from the real world. However, the brief stay also made Li Muqing aware that there should not be too much danger here, at least he could survive. If there is still another time to travel, he plans to do more preparation anyway, it's better than coming in empty-handed. When there was only the last minute left, Li Muqing's bracelet began to project the countdown number, allowing him to discover a new function. Li Muqing casually found a more hidden place and prepared to wait for the bracelet to bring him back to the real world. Although no one else was found in this place, as long as we find the living people in this world, we can definitely use the unequal information between the 2 worlds to make a profit. Anyway, this world is more than 100 years ahead of its original time, at least the level of technology must be more advanced than its own side. At the very least, you can bring some high-tech back to make some money, right? Just as Li Muqing was brainstorming against the wall, waiting for time to return to zero, some noise suddenly came from outside. The sound was very quiet, but in this now extremely quiet place with only the sound of the wind, Li Muqing still noticed it. He quickly walked to the windowsill without glass, and indeed saw 2 people walking cautiously downstairs. The person in front is carrying a backpack, with a green short jacket that has been flipped over on the upper body and several torn, washed white denim shorts on the lower body. They are wearing a hat on their head, and their long black hair is tied up in a ponytail and dragged behind them. This person has a muscular and symmetrical figure, and Li Muqing's face is hard to see. However, from behind, those perky buttocks are definitely more round and firm than those modern women who come out of the gym. The person following her, dressed in a plain and worn-out casual suit that didn't fit well, was carrying 2 dirty bags and cautiously following along. Finally seeing a living person, still 2 girls, Li Muqing felt happy and wanted to shout out. But he suddenly realized that he was about to teleport away, opened his mouth, but couldn't shout out. At this moment, I don't know if I sensed something, but the person below suddenly stopped, turned his head, and saw Li Muqing with his arms outstretched and his mouth open. In contrast, Li Muqing only had a chance to see this face, but was forcibly sent back by the bracelet because time had returned to zero. However, that somewhat surprised yet beautiful face was deeply imprinted in Li Muqing's mind. In front of him, there was another wave of unconsciousness. When he woke up, Li Muqing had already returned to the familiar warehouse. Everything around him remained unchanged, but the necklace and ring in his hand clearly told him that everything just now was not a dream. I didn't expect everything to be true, and I brought back the things over there. Li Muqing looked at the bracelet with complex eyes and murmured to herself, "What exactly are you? You have such a magical function." "My name is the Dimensional Plane Transport Bracelet, which helps the owner navigate through different planes. The previous owner passed away unexpectedly after crossing into this world, leaving me with depleted energy. Through the slow automatic energy recovery function, it took me 10 years to recover enough energy. Now that you have become my new master, I can teleport with you between 2 different planes. In addition, I have many other functions waiting for the owner to increase their permissions to unlock." To Li Muqing's surprise, the electronic synthesizer in the bracelet actually answered his question. After a moment of contemplation, the bracelet, or to put it another way, the dimensional plane teleportation bracelet, Li Muqing asked, "It means you need enough energy to teleport with me on the plane. So how can I replenish your energy?" Li Muqing is well aware that the most important thing about a bracelet being able to teleport is undoubtedly that energy, in its mouth. "I can replenish energy in various ways, the most basic of which is electricity, but electricity is only the lowest level of energy and can only be used for plane transmission. If I need to unlock more advanced permissions, I need to absorb some rare metals, such as lithium, beryllium, titanium, vanadium, germanium, niobium, molybdenum, cesium, lanthanum, tungsten, radium, etc. However, unlocking permissions requires certain conditions to be met, and I will prompt the owner at that time. After listening to the explanation given by the bracelet, Li Muqing breathed a sigh of relief. You're not afraid of using electricity. However, Li Muqing said he had never heard of the string of rare metals mentioned behind the bracelet. We can only take one step and see one step at a time. Anyway, as long as we have money, there is nothing in this world that we cannot buy. Bracelet. I'll call you that. As long as you have enough energy, can I travel freely? Answer the master, even if there is sufficient energy, teleportation still requires a 12-hour cooldown time. After the cooldown time is over, teleportation can be carried out at any time. Surprisingly, there is still a cooling time. It seems that there are some limitations to this dimensional plane teleportation bracelet. I'm not sure if it's possible to reduce some restrictions after the permissions are lifted. Okay, how much energy do you have now? How long will you have to wait for the next teleportation? For teleportation, Li Muqing was already a bit impatient. Especially before returning, the last face he saw was somehow deeply imprinted in his mind. Answer my master, the current stored energy is only 8%. Formal teleportation requires at least 20% of energy at a time. Please replenish my energy as soon as possible. Chapter 3. Harvest Full. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Good guy, it takes about 20% energy to teleport once, so back and forth is only 40%. Li Muqing quickly took off the bracelet and placed it next to the power socket. The bracelet says that simply place it next to the power source and it can automatically capture current to act as energy. It also indicated that a considerable amount of electricity is needed to replenish energy, making Li Muqing prepared. Regarding this, Li Muqing said it doesn't matter. I am now a person who can cross two planes, just a little electricity, not worth mentioning. After placing the bracelet, Li Muqing hurriedly left. He just returned 2 pieces of jewelry that looked good from another plane, ready to exchange for some money. It's also a shame to say that Li Muqing's current bank account only has a deposit of over 1,000 yuan. Although there are goods worth 4,000 to 5,000 yuan in the grocery store, the people around them have all moved away, and if they can't sell them, it's just a waste. Not to mention that he still owes the supplier thousands of yuan in unpaid payments. To put it simply, Li Muqing has reached the point of extreme poverty, otherwise he wouldn't have been a nail farmer here for so long. It's really Feihong Group that bullies people too much. If they followed the normal compensation standards, Li Mu would have moved his but early in the morning. You should know that Li Muqing's grocery store is a 2-story small building. Although it has been dilapidated for a long time, it is still worth 1 to 200,000 yuan. As a result, Feihong Group offered 30,000 yuan, which was a blatant robbery. Humph, when I'm developed, I can't help but stir up your Feihong Group. Shaking his head, Li Muqing stopped thinking about these things and drove his little electric donkey to a jewelry shop 3 blocks away. This shop is a privately operated jewelry shop, and the owner himself is a goldsmith. The jewelry he hammers out with one hand is very popular among nearby people. At the same time as selling jewelry, the boss also purchases gold and silver for a long time, and it is the kind that does not ask for a way out, which is also the reason why Li Muqing chose this place. Boss Lu, are you busy? Entering the jewelry store, Li Muqing greeted the owner who was forging jewelry with familiarity. This is not the first time Li Muqing has come. He has also bought and sold some gold and silver jewelry before, so he is quite familiar with the shop owner Lu Dali. Oh, Xiaoli, it's been a long time since we last saw each other. I heard that your area has been demolished. Why, have you become wealthy and come to take care of my old Lu's business? Lu Dali saw that Li Muqing had arrived and immediately joked. Boss Lu, don't mention this. Fei Hong Group is responsible for demolition in our area. Not to mention making a fortune, even eating is a problem. Li Muqing had a bitter face and poured bitter water with Lu Dali. Sigh, those guys who cover the sky with one hand are really shameless. They're greedy for money, damn it. Lu Dali listened to Li Muqing's experience and joined forces with the enemy. Not to mention that, Mr. Lu. These are the last 2 pieces of jewelry I dug out from home. Can you help me take a look and estimate the price so that I can find a place to place them? Speaking, Li Muqing took out a necklace and ring from his pocket. The flirtation with Mr. Lu just now was just a prelude, just to show that selling jewelry is legitimate. It's really hard for you to come and take a look. If it's real, I'll definitely give you a suitable price. Sure enough, after the previous conversation, Lu Dali was filled with sympathy for Li Muqing. Without saying a word, he put down the small hammer in his hand and began to identify the 2 pieces of jewelry brought by Li Muqing. Before long, Lu Dali came up with a conclusion. These 2 pieces of jewelry should have been stored for quite some time, right? It's not easy to flip them out. This gold necklace has a great style that I haven't even seen before, and the gold used is pure gold. 24K is definitely enough. The ring is also good. It looks like this diamond is natural, about 2 carats long. The body of the ring is also platinum, and the style is still the kind I haven't seen before. Not bad, it's all fun. To Li Muqing's relief, Lu Dali was full of praise for both pieces of jewelry. What's the price? Lu Dali pondered for a moment and said, Shaoli, seeing how difficult it is for you now, I won't deceive you either. This necklace weighs 25 grams, and at the current gold price, if you weigh 400 grams, it will be 10,000 yuan. As for the ring, I can't say for sure, but I'll give you a fair price. I'll take it for 50,000 yuan. A total of 60,000 yuan, is this price acceptable? 60,000. Li Muqing blinked her eyes and nodded without even thinking. This price has exceeded his expectations. After all, it's something that was picked for nothing, so it would be good if it could be exchanged for money. Seeing Li Muqing's agreement, Lu Dali quickly took out his mobile phone to transfer money. After the money was received, Li Muqing smiled and thanked him before leaving the jewelry store. I didn't even ask for a document. This kind of private gold and silver transaction was not supposed to be documented, but rather focused on clearing the money and goods. After leaving the store, there will be no further claims. Li Muqing couldn't express her joy as she looked at the 60,000 yuan extra in her phone. After just staying in that world for an hour, he earned 60,000 yuan. Will he still earn less money in the future? Li Muqing suddenly felt that there was a broad and prosperous road in front of him. With the money, Li Muqing went to Hu Shihai for a drink, and then wandered around the area a few times, purchasing a lot of items. By the time he returned to the grocery store, which was his home, carrying large and small packages, it was already past 9 o'clock in the evening. The door that left after 1 o'clock in the afternoon has already passed 8 hours. Unable to wait, Li Muqing ran to the miscellaneous room and saw that the bracelet was still lying quietly there, feeling a sigh of relief in her heart. After easily obtaining 60,000 yuan, he was even more afraid that the bracelet would suddenly disappear. How is the energy charging on the bracelet? Master, the energy has now been restored to 19%. What? Only 19%. This charging efficiency is too slow, isn't it? The current power here is too low, resulting in slow energy replenishment. If I need to speed up the energy replenishment speed, the owner needs to place me in a position with high current. Where is the current high? Li Muqing immediately thought of the transformers and utility poles on the street. Is the current high enough in this place? Try it later. There are too many people now, and if anything happens, it won't be good. So Li Muqing continued to pack his things at home until around midnight when he sneaked out the door. At midnight, the whole street was quiet, with no one left, only dim lights flickering. It's not surprising. Originally, everyone on the street had moved out, leaving only Li Muqing as a household. However, the power poles carrying the transformers stand tall on the street, which is the main road where people and vehicles occasionally pass by. Arriving at the transformer, Li Muqing took out his wristband and whispered, "Is the current here high enough?" A huge current has been detected, which can quickly restore energy. Please place me on the ground and leave me for a distance. When absorbing current, unpredictable situations may occur. Chapter 4. Crossing Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Following the instructions of the bracelet, Li Muqing placed it under the transformer and ran out several tens of meters in a flash. Just kidding, this thing has a voltage of several thousand volts or more. If it leaks a little electricity, Li Muqing will definitely hiccup. Not far away, the bracelet began to absorb current. At first, there was no sensation, but not long after, Li Muqing clearly felt a blue arc flashing around the bracelet. This is a manifestation that the voltage gathered around it has reached a certain level, because the surrounding air is ionized by high voltage, which is why blue light is emitted. 2 more minutes later, Li Muqing began to realize something was wrong. Didn't you see that voltage regulator starting to emit sparks? Just as he was about to say a stop, the transformer suddenly made a boom sound and exploded. Of course, the explosion here was not a real one, but rather a pile of sparks, and then the transformer also burned. With the strike of transformers, the street suddenly fell into a power outage and became pitch black. Li Muqing quickly ran forward, took the wristband back, and then ran back home in a flash using the light emitted by the transformer. I don't even bring my head back. The perfect embodiment of the word guilty of being a thief. Who? No one noticed, right? Returning home, Li Muqing didn't forget to take a glance outside and saw that the street was still empty, which relieved him. Bracelet, how much energy did you replenish just now? The current energy value is 68%. How much? 68%. The response from the bracelet surprised Li Muqing. In just 10 minutes, there was almost 50% more energy. It seems that it's not because the efficiency of the bracelet is not high, but because one's own conditions are not enough. But every time I charge, I have to burn out a transformer, and this cost is a bit high. However, Li Muqing had a sudden idea and said, next time I'll go to the headquarters of Feihong Group and suck up some electricity. That's all. Looking at the time, there is less than an hour left until the cooldown of the teleportation ends, but Li Muqing has no intention of starting the teleportation immediately. Joking, it's already so late. With 2 world times synchronized, it's also evening over there now. What if something terrifying happens? Besides, Li Muqing has been tired all afternoon and hasn't slept. If she doesn't go to sleep, she can't hold on anymore. In this way, Li Muqing slept soundly with his wristband in his arms. He had been dreaming of getting rich all night, and the sleep was incredibly sweet. The next day, Li Muqing woke up after 3 strokes of the sun, tidied up his supplies, and packed all the things he had brought into a large mountaineering bag. At the same time, he also held a brand new multifunctional engineering shovel in his hand. This is the most lethal weapon he can find, even better than a fire axe. Ready, Li Muqing communicates with the bracelet and begins the teleportation. The energy check is complete, the energy is sufficient. Start the transfer program and transfer to the destination. A 657498 Stux-bit plane. This teleportation requires 22% energy consumption. Transfer countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Transfer started. After a series of warning sounds, Li Muqing once again felt a sense of darkness before his eyes, followed by a sense of weightlessness. 1 second later, the abnormality disappeared, and her vision slowly began to recover. Li Muqing did indeed return to the same world as last time. And the place where he appeared was exactly where he was teleported back last time. It seems that the bracelet is teleported at a fixed point, so in the real world, we need to pay attention to some things. Li Muqing has gained more knowledge with multiple wristbands. Let's go and see if we can find anyone, at least understand the situation here. After a brief period of adaptation, Li Muqing walked out of the villa and began to search for living people. In fact, Li Muqing still had some expectations in her heart. Can she still see the two women she saw yesterday this time? The last teleportation only lasted for an hour, but apart from most of the houses that had not yet entered, Li Muqing had already basically figured out the terrain of this dilapidated villa area. If you want to find someone, you probably need to leave this villa area. After all, this doesn't seem like a place where people live. Like the last time I came, the villa area was very large, dilapidated, and quiet. Apart from the wind, there was no other sound heard, just like Li Muqing was the only one left in this world. This feeling made Li Muqing quite uncomfortable. This kind of scene, Li Muqing has only seen it in movies, usually not a good omen, so he gradually felt a little uneasy. So he quickened his pace, and in half an hour, Li Muqing saw the original gate of the villa area. Looking at the once magnificent but now dilapidated gate, Li Muqing once again felt that her feelings were right. There may have been something bad happening in this world before, otherwise it wouldn't have turned into this. Outside the villa area, there is a main road with many strange-shaped plants growing on the roadside. These plants, Li Muqing felt somewhat familiar, but he had never seen them at all. And as he walked here, Li Muqing could only see from a distance the shadow of a city in the sky, but the city was still in a dilapidated state, with many tall buildings already collapsed or half broken, clearly very decaying. Is it possible that this world, 100 years later, has experienced a huge war, becoming a legendary wasteland? This idea suddenly came to Li Muqing's mind. Although there is no definite evidence yet, he estimates that he is still close to 10 or 8. If this world were as prosperous as Li Muqing's real world, this scene would never have appeared. The huge city on the horizon should not be close. Although it is morning now, the thick clouds in the sky block the light of the sun, making the sky gray and uncomfortable. Li Muqing's heart was a bit hesitant, he was thinking whether or not to walk such a long way into the city. What if I encounter any terrifying monsters on the road? Just as he was getting entangled, he suddenly realized that there seemed to be someone lying under a big tree not far from the road. Driven by curiosity, Li Muqing walked closer, and upon closer inspection, 2 people actually collapsed under the tree. Judging from their clothing and physique, they are still the 2 people I saw yesterday. Li Muqing quickly ran forward and only then did he realize that their faces were pale, as if they were in a coma. The good news is that they are still breathing, but the girl with a long ponytail still has several obvious wounds on her body, which are still bleeding. Li Muqing quickly took out a first aid kit from his backpack. This was also bought when he made the purchase yesterday. After all, Li Muqing is exploring unknown areas, how could he have missed things like first aid kits? The wounds on Changmawai were concentrated on her back, hands, and feet. Inexperienced Li Muqing clumsily disinfected and bandaged her, while also taking the opportunity to observe their faces. Chapter 5. Encountering Double Pride Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. These 2 are both down-to-earth beauties, each with a score of 90 or above, and they have a proper bare face with no signs of using cosmetics on their faces. The girl with a long ponytail has a very handsome appearance, a high nose bridge and a small mouth. Even with her eyes closed, Li Muqing can tell that her eyes are very big. Her facial features are perfectly matched, paired with a wheat-colored skin and a pair of weapons with at least 36C, it is simply the best in the world. And the other girl looked like a loli, with a round face, small mouth, big eyes, and loose hair. If she could change into a dress of Lolita, she would definitely be a worthy Lolita, with an estimated 200% turnaround rate after going out on the street. However, what puzzled Li Muqing was how these two beautiful girls could be dressed in tattered clothes and unconscious in this wilderness. Hurriedly bandaged the wound, Li Muqing took out a bottle of water from his backpack and fed it little by little to the unconscious long ponytail. Until her cracked lips moistened again, she gently lowered her and turned to feed the little loli, who also looked very dehydrated. I don't know if the water is working, but before Li Muqing finished feeding, there was some movement in the long ponytail, as if it was about to wake up. Li Muqing turned her head and saw that she was facing her with 4 eyes. For a moment, neither of them knew what to say. Chang Mawai had just woken up when he saw a stranger holding his companion, not knowing what she was thinking. There was an awkward silence for 2 seconds, and Li Muqing was about to speak up and explain. Suddenly, Long Ma's face changed and he magically pulled out a uniquely shaped gun from his waist, aiming it directly at Li Muqing. At this moment, Li Muqing was scared to the death. He never expected that his good intentions to save each other would result in such a result. Just as Li Muqing was about to explain, he saw his long ponytail gaze freeze and decisively pull the trigger. In the next moment, Li Muqing saw a blue light emerge from the muzzle of the gun, shooting straight at him. It's over, it's all over. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have come. Li Muqing closed her eyes in despair, and various events since birth came to mind. This is the legendary horse lantern, but unfortunately, he is so young that he will be buried in a different world. Hey, how do you feel? Like a scorching light has brushed against my ear. Li Muqing, with her eyes closed, felt a slight heat on the side of her face, and then heard a plop sound from behind, as if it was the sound of something falling to the ground. I'm not dead. I'm dead, my brain can still spin, so I shouldn't be dead. Thinking of this, Li Muqing opened his eyes and saw that the gun with a long ponytail had already been put down, and the person was lying down again. But there was still a slight smile on the corner of her mouth. Is this mocking him? Li Muqing felt that it must have been his performance just now that made Long Ma Wei laugh, and he even had no intention of guarding against him. Turning her head again, Li Muqing noticed a humanoid creature lying on the ground behind her, only 1 meter away from her. From the appearance, this guy doesn't seem like a human at all. Or rather, it doesn't seem like a normal human. That humanoid creature had no clothes on, its exposed skin was pale, with large marks of decay. My whole body was covered in ashes, and there were still patches of blood on my body. Its eyes are gray, without pupils, with a large mouth covered in blood, sharp and messy teeth, and long and sharp nails on its hands and feet. This thing looks like a legendary zombie. Is this thing a zombie? Perhaps it was the shot just now that made Li Muqing still unable to recover, so his voice was still trembling. Unfortunately, no one answered his question. Long Ponytail ignored him, and the other lowly face was still unconscious. I killed a zombie just now. This question was not answered until they returned to the stronghold of the two women. Just now, after feeding some water, Loli's face also woke up. The two girls, whose bodies were clearly not fully recovered, took the initiative to ask Li Muqing to help them and returned to a large villa in the villa area. Along the way, Li Muqing worked hard to support them and occasionally asked questions that he was concerned about. For example, the identities of the two women, why are they here, and why are they injured? In fact, I am also indirectly trying to understand the situation in this world. But when faced with Li Muqing's question, the two women just didn't answer, as if they were mute, just looking at him with a look of cherishing animals. Returning to the stronghold of the two women, Li Muqing's heart softened as he watched their weak appearance. He then took out 2 cans from his backpack and handed them over. This was amazing. 2 beautiful girls saw the can and their eyes turned green. They immediately transformed into hungry wolves and snatched the can. Then, with red eyes, they wolfed down all the contents inside, and even the remaining juice on the can was carefully added clean with their tongues. And after they finished eating, the canned boxes were even cleaner than after washing. Not to mention, when Li Muqing saw two beautiful women sticking out their tongues to add cans, a little evil thought suddenly came to her heart. If it's used to lick something else, sin. Li Muqing quickly suppressed this evil thought, observing the nose, and heart, and assumed the appearance of a righteous gentleman. After the two women finished the canned food, there was a noticeable warmth in their eyes as they looked at Li Muqing. Long ponytails finally spoke up and answered the question Li Muqing asked half an hour ago. Finally willing to speak. Li Muqing silently breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. As long as she spoke up, the rest of the matter would be easier to handle. Are you full? If you're not full, I still have some here. Don't eat too fast, it's easy to choke. You need to drink some water. Li Muqing looked like a typical warm man, looking at the two of them clearly not having enough to eat. He then took out a few compressed biscuits and a bottle of water from his bag. These things are all taken from the grocery store, and there are many more. Sure enough, the two women saw the compressed biscuits and casually took them over to nibble on. But with the canned food as the base, they no longer had the wild appearance they had just shown. Instead, they chewed the biscuits finely and slowly swallowed them with water. Obviously, this way of eating can maximize the energy of cookies, and it seems that both of them have experience in wilderness survival. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Muqing once again asked some questions he wanted to know, such as who the two women were, where they were here, and why zombies appeared. As soon as these questions were asked, it was clear to them that Li Muqing was not from this world. Li Muqing is not a fool either. Before asking a question, he had also considered it. But after experiencing the situation where Long Ma Wei didn't directly kill himself with a single shot just now, Li Muqing knew that these two people should not be some big villains. And if you want to establish yourself in this unfamiliar world, you always need some help. And they are Li Muqing's choice. Chapter 6. The World of Wasteland. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It has been proven that Li Muqing has a right eye for people. Faced with such an idiot like Li Muqing, the two women's eyes became even more strange, but they still told Li Muqing everything they knew. The beautiful woman with a long ponytail is named Qin Siya, and the name of the girl with a lowly face is Molly, but she prefers to be called a doll by those who are close to her. They are both survivors of this wasteland, or rather wasteland rangers. And this land, decades ago, experienced an unprecedented war that affected the whole world, which is why it has become what it is now. The current time is June 29, 2166 AD, and the location is Zhanyang City in China, which is the same as the place where Li Muqing came. In 2143 years, more than 20 years ago, global resources were almost depleted. In order to seek allies to confront the increasingly severe resource crisis, the world was divided into four major sectors. The oceanic states led by the United States, the European Communist Union formed by European countries huddling together for warmth, the Asian Communist Union formed by China, and some third world and neutral countries remaining. Originally, everyone was working together to develop space technology and seek resources from space. However, on an ordinary day in 2149, the Oceanic Union suddenly broke its hypocritical facade and launched an aggressive attack on third world countries. The word, pulling one hair and moving the whole body, was the most appropriate term used at that time. In less than a month, the rapidly spreading war swept across all countries around the world. The other two major national organizations, the Asian Communist Union and the European Communist Union, have also had to join the battlefield for their own interests. This war turned into the Third World War. Everyone fought back and forth for the remaining resources, and the war lasted for 5 years without achieving any results, leaving only the blue star Earth covered in devastation. In the end, a red regime country that had been bullied by the Oceanic Union couldn't help but take out their secretly developed nuclear bomb and successfully detonate it on the west coast of the United States. This year was 2154, which also marked the beginning of the nuclear war phase of the Third World War. This year, nuclear bombs flew everywhere like fireworks, exploding in every corner of the world. The entire blue star was affected by nuclear radiation, and the ecological environment was uncontrollably destroyed. The arrival of nuclear winter covered most of the land on the blue star with polluted ice and snow. Not only that, humans also use various new types of weapons, and various biochemical weapons emerge endlessly. In less than a year, the blue star has been turned into a wasteland. Originally, there were over 10 billion humans on the blue star. But in this war, the number of humans has sharply decreased to 1 billion, human civilization has almost collapsed, and human luck has also been depleted. The remaining humans can only survive in shelters established during wartime or in some remote corners, waiting for the departure of nuclear winter. And on top of the waste soil outside, organisms that have been exposed to nuclear radiation and biochemical pollution have stood up and begun to become the new hegemons of the world. Zombies are one of the newly born products on the wasteland, in addition to various powerful mutated beasts and synthetic monsters, making it even more difficult for humans to survive. After another 5 years, nuclear winter gradually passed, and the energy of some shelters was about to run out, causing humans to emerge from the underground one after another. With strong survival and adaptability, they began to seize their rightful place in this wasteland. And now it is 2166 years, and humanity has firmly established itself on this wasteland with its intelligence and talent. However, the social form has undergone inevitable changes, let alone living conditions, which have directly returned to over 100 years ago. However, the technological level in this world is still very high. After all, in various shelters, humans have left behind many seeds of technology. However, due to limited conditions and a lack of resources, the technology tree has become a bit crooked. However, it is not very important. During the conversation, Li Muqing has already thought of the path to wealth. You are not from here, are you? After finishing her meal, Qin Siye stared at Li Muqing with a calm expression and asked hesitantly. Oh, how do you know? Although he knew that his performance was already very obvious, Li Muqing still wanted to maintain a sense of mystery. We haven't met for the first time. Yesterday, I saw you, but the next second, you disappeared. Today, I met you again, and judging from your problems, your attire, and the things you carry, you don't belong to this world. Qin Siye stared at Li Muqing and said seriously. Besides, in this world, there won't be anyone like you who is willing to share food with strangers. Qin Siye didn't say this sentence, just silently murmured it in her heart. Congratulations on getting it right. I'm not from this world. As for my true identity, please allow me to keep it confidential for the time being. Now, I have a small proposal, I wonder if you can accept it. Seeing Li Muqing speaking so openly and directly, Qin Siye's eyes showed a hint of hesitation. After exchanging a glance with Molly who had been silent on the side, she replied, You talk first. It's actually quite simple, as you know, I just arrived here and I'm not familiar with everything here, so I want to hire you as my employees. How about you first familiarize me with the environment of this world and ensure my safety? Hiring. Employees. Qin Siye's eyes revealed confusion. Although she has heard of these two words, no one has really mentioned them to her. Yes, when I come to this world, it actually represents our world. If I want to do business with you, even if it's mutual exchange. Li Muqing packaged herself very tall, actually deceiving these two girls who seemed to have never seen much of the market before. So what do you want from here? This place has become a wasteland, resources are almost depleted, and the earth is filled with fierce and terrifying zombies and mutated beasts. I don't know what you can find worth exchanging. Qin Siye sighed, it seemed that she held great dissatisfaction with the world she was in. Well, it's simple, technology. I need technology, the technology of your world. Li Muqing smiled, knowing from Qin Siye's tone that his goal was almost achieved. Technology. Qin Siye was clearly stunned. Yes, just like the gun you used to shoot zombies with before, or the little thing you carried on your wrists. I don't know how to call it. Technology items like that can be exchanged. In fact, besides these, Li Muqing also knows that there must be many technologies in this world that he did not have in that world, which is the treasure trove that can help him get rich. After all, in the real world, the most profitable companies are technology companies. Is that all? But you have the technology to travel through space. Is your world's technological level even lower than here? Qin Siye was somewhat skeptical. This is just something unique to me, our world is not rich in it. Well, without further ado, beautiful Miss Qin and Miss Mo, should you both accept my employment? Li Muqing brushed off this topic and sent out another invitation. Chapter 7. Hiring Employees. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What compensation can you give us? At this moment, Molly, who had been listening all along, finally spoke up. Her voice was surprisingly as sweet as her appearance, with a doll-like voice that sounded as pleasant as a oriole. Food. This is the most basic thing. Follow me, at least you can manage to be full every day. As for other things, depending on what you need, I can also try my best to provide them. Through Qin Siye's description and the way the two women were eating canned food just now, Li Muqing already understood that their food source must be very scarce. So, the best payment method for hiring them is definitely food. By using the cheapest food in the real world, you can hire 2 experienced Wasteland Rangers. It's really not worth making too much money. Done. Sure enough, upon hearing Li Muqing's request, Qin Siye had not even spoken before Molly spoke in her baby voice with a firm expression. Upon hearing this, Li Muqing smiled knowingly and desired such an effect. So he took out all the food he had brought this time and placed it on the table. Alright, 2 beautiful employees. Here is the compensation paid in advance by your boss. There will be more and better things in the future, but now, you need to introduce yourself to your boss, at least mention the skills you know, which will also facilitate my understanding. The 2 women looked at the table full of food they had never seen before, and their eyes couldn't help but glow green again. They are really scared of hunger. If they are not from this world, they will not know how difficult it is to find food, especially such delicious things. Fortunately, they have already eaten enough now, and in order to maintain women's composure, they have not made any moves of starving tigers. Besides, Li Muqing also promised that in the future, they would be able to have a full meal, and these things in front of them were not worth mentioning. Next is the time to get to know each other. Although the 2 women have verbally become employees of Li Muqing really doesn't have an objective understanding of them, so understanding is the most important thing. Qin Siye is a standard Wasteland Ranger who has not joined any survivor organizations and wanders alone in the city, doing whatever she wants. On weekdays, she hunts down some monsters in exchange for daily necessities, so whether it's her physical fitness, combat skills, marksmanship or other skills, Qin Siye is top-notch. After all, without these skills by her side, how could she survive on the lawless wasteland as a beautiful woman like a flower and jade? On the other hand, Molly is another extreme. Because she knows almost nothing, it was Qin Siye who saved her 6 months ago. Before being rescued by Qin Siye, Molly had just been kidnapped from a shelter by a mercenary group. Don't be surprised, there are countless shelters built during wartime, and even after more than a decade has passed, there are still shelters in operation. This has led some unscrupulous individuals to see business opportunities, specifically seeking and attacking such shelters to plunder resources and population. Those who have not experienced the baptism of wasteland rules in the shelter generally become slaves or playthings, and their fate is extremely tragic. So, half a year ago, Molly was still a simple girl growing up in a shelter, just like the era of Li Muqing, pure as a blank sheet of paper. When the shelter was forcibly opened and the vicious bandits were looting everywhere, she was fortunate enough to meet Qin Siye and was raised by her until now. So now, besides possessing some knowledge of surviving in Wasteland, Molly has basically no other strengths, at least far inferior to Qin Siya. Siya. Can you call me that? You're temporarily responsible for my safety, can you handle it? After listening to the introduction of the two girls again, Li Muqing thought for a moment and made a work arrangement. Qin Siya's strength is undoubtedly very strong, as can be felt from her description. How can a young woman with a beautiful appearance and figure survive alone in such disorderly wasteland for so long without two brushes? Previously, Li Muqing was still wondering why there were no monsters in this villa area. After listening to Qin Siya's introduction, he realized that it was not that there were no zombies here, but that Qin Siya had cleared all the zombies in the entire villa area alone. As for why he did this, it was mainly because Qin Siya used this place as his stronghold and, for safety reasons, cleaned up all the monsters. It is also because this place is relatively remote, far from the city center of Sanyang or places where monsters gather in the wild, so the number of monsters is not large and the quality is not high. And this villa area has already been looted by survivors countless times, leaving nothing decent behind. After stacking several buffs, it is still relatively safe here. At this point, it must be noted that the reason why Li Muqing met two girls who were unconscious was because they had recently been attacked by mutated creatures in the wild. After Qin Siya tried her best to kill the other party, the two of them supported her and wanted to return to the stronghold. Unfortunately, she had not eaten for a long time, which led to physical exhaustion and both of them fainted in front of the villa area door. If it weren't for being met by Li Muqing, perhaps they would have encountered something. They might have been devoured by zombies while unconscious, or picked up by passing survivors to become ex-slaves. Anyway, the outcome would have been very tragic. Guardians. No problem, I'm still a bit confident in this aspect. Qin Siya nodded and took out her uniquely shaped laser beam gun from her waist. She played a few tricks in her hand, looking very cool. As for you. You grew up in a shelter before and should have received a good education. Have you ever received any education about computer programming? Turning her head, she glanced at the somewhat lonely Molly. This girl actually hoped she could come in handy. Previously, she could only rely on Qin Siya to survive, but now she has become an employee of Li Muqing and also wants to contribute. Programming. Molly frowned and thought for a moment. When we were in the shelter before, we had systematically learned about this area. It's okay to write a simple mini-program, but as for the rest, it depends on what other requirements you have. Li Muqing was somewhat disappointed upon hearing this. A simple mini-program may not necessarily meet his needs. But I can learn. When I was in the shelter, my academic performance always ranked first and I learned everything very quickly. Just give me a virtual assisted learning machine. It seemed that she noticed Li Muqing's emotional changes, and Molly quickly added. Oh. You're still a top student, then there's no problem. The technical aspect is up to you, I'll take good care of you. It's okay now, as long as you're willing to learn, it's good. Chapter 8. Strengthening Humanity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With Li Muqing's affirmation, Molly's small face showed a joyful smile, combined with her delicate lowly face, it was simply adorable. Don't worry about whether she can be effective or not, at least this beauty can be pleasing to the eye. By the way, what is this on your hands? Li Muqing pointed to the small thing on the wrists of the two women and asked. He is very interested in this thing, which seems to be something similar to an integrated terminal. During a chat just now, Qin Siya used it to project a virtual screen and explain to Li Muqing the terrain around Sanyang City and the branch areas of various forces. This thing is called a Personal Intelligent Terminal, abbreviated as PIT, which is a must-have for survivors of Wasteland. You can exchange it for a soul crystal at 5 o'clock in Anning Town. By the way, boss, haven't you? Girl, go get one for the boss. As she was explaining, Qin Siya noticed Li Muqing's interested gaze and suddenly realized that her boss was not from this world, so there wouldn't be a pit. She quickly asked Molly to get one. This pit was taken off by Qin Xie from a malicious guy, and it was useless to keep it, so it was given to Li Muqing. After wearing the pit, the ergonomic design was very close to the arm, and Li Muqing did not feel any discomfort. The energy of pit is a unique thing in this world called soul crystal, which is obtained from zombies or mutated beasts and is also a hard currency in the Wasteland world. One soul crystal can run pit for 6 months, which is very convenient. After carrying pit, the system automatically starts and scans for less than a minute before displaying a line of data on the screen. Name: Li Muqing. Muscle strength 12, bone density 10, cell activity 13, reflex nerves 12, radiation value 8, safe. Overall evaluation: normal human, no abnormalities. Li Muqing can understand almost all the data above. Muscle strength and bone density should determine strength, cell activity is estimated to be recovery ability, and reflex nerves are naturally reaction ability. But when he saw the radiation values behind him, he still felt a little uneasy. After all, this world has experienced nuclear war, with nuclear pollution and radiation everywhere. Fortunately, I didn't go anywhere rashly, otherwise if I was exposed to radiation, there would be no place to cry. Boss, your data is pretty good, it's quite strong among ordinary humans. Qin Xie glanced at the value on pit and praised it. Of course, I often exercise when I have nothing to do. By the way, what's your data? Can you please show me? Li Muqing originally wanted to show off a bit, but suddenly remembered that there shouldn't be a gym or anything like it here, so he quickly changed the topic. It's not a big deal to look at the data. The two women extended their arms and adjusted the pit to the delivery mode. Name: Molly. Muscle strength 23, bone density 28, cellular activity 30, reflex nerves 26, radiation value 12, safe. Remarks: D. Grade booster, SST virus vaccine, anti-radiation vaccine. Overall evaluation: strengthening human beings, with no overall abnormalities. Name: Qin Xie. Muscle strength 46, bone density 59, cell activity 50, reflex nerve 43, radiation value 9, safe. Remarks: C. Grade booster, SST virus vaccine, anti-radiation vaccine. Overall evaluation: strengthening human beings, with no overall abnormalities. A series of data left Li Muqing stunned. It goes without saying that Qin Xie, a Wasteland ranger, has stronger physical data than herself. But even Molly, who looks harmless to humans and animals, has a face that is twice as strong as herself. Looking at their slender arms, especially Qin Xie's, Li Muqing couldn't believe that with a single punch, this woman could unleash a force 4 times stronger than herself, let alone the other data. However, Li Muqing also noticed that there is a note below their data, which is the strengthening medicine. It is estimated that their strong physical fitness should be related to that kind of thing. The boss doesn't have to worry too much about these data. We are all humans who have been injected with strengthening drugs, and our physical fitness will be much better than ordinary people. Qin Xie was quite understanding. Seeing Li Muqing's surprised expression, she took the initiative to explain. C-level strengthening potions are available for sale in Anning Town, with about 50 soul crystals per unit. D-level ones are much cheaper, with 10 soul crystals per unit. Don't underestimate this value, after all, 1 soul crystal can be exchanged for a month's worth of food. Of course, it is the lowest level of synthetic nutrients, but it is enough to keep a person at the bottom alive. The food brought by the boss should be very popular in Anning Town. When you get the soul crystal, you can buy those potions. Qin Xie's proposal moved Li Muqing very much. It is said that 1 injection of C-grade medication can double the physical fitness, and with reasonable exercise, it can reach a level similar to that of Qin Xie. This kind of physical fitness may not be much in the wasteland, but in the real world, this is Li Muqing's arrogant capital. But as I mentioned earlier, I want to give the food to the two women as my salary, and Li Muqing is also not good at receiving it back. Moreover, Qin Siye is still injured, so we must let her recover from her injuries and set out. So Li Muqing decided to go back to the real world first, bring more food before coming over. The food on the table is already yours, and I won't exchange it for anything. Moreover, this little food probably won't meet my needs. You guys need to rest and prepare for the next few days. I'll go back and buy some goods. After 3 days, you'll take me to Anning Town to sweep the goods. When Li Muqing said this plan, Qin Siye's eyes were filled with a hint of warmth. If you are a person from the wasteland world, you will not even care about the ownership of these foods or the physical condition of your subordinates. As long as it is beneficial to yourself, what about the life and death of others? But Li Muqing is completely different. He not only thinks of himself, but also thinks of his employees. This is a feeling that Qin Siye and Mo Li have not experienced for a long time. These foods should be enough for you to eat for 3 days. Don't overeat or drink too much, it may be bad for your health. I'll go back later. By the way, do you have any weapons here? Let me take them back for self-defense. Originally, Li Muqing was about to turn around and leave, but suddenly realized that even if he came, he shouldn't have returned empty-handed. This is a wasteland world, something that doesn't exist in a normal world. It's like grabbing a bunch of guns here. Besides, getting 2 guns for self-defense would be easy. Qin Siye was taken aback at the words, then pulled out the gun she was carrying and handed it to Li Muqing. This is the Hulang B4 laser pistol, which uses a standard battery as a magazine. A magazine can shoot 50 lasers, and you have already seen the power, which is enough to pierce a person's head. Laser weapons have low noise and recoil, but they are difficult to control and have a high wear rate. In the wasteland world, only experienced people will use them, but I think this weapon should be more suitable for your world. Li Muqing took over the uniquely shaped Wolf B4. A few hours ago, the gun was aimed at his head, making him think he was about to ascend to heaven. This magazine is new and has only been fired once. If it's not for going to war, it should be enough for you. If it's not enough, I'll find a few more standard batteries. Qin Siye taught Li Muqing how to use weapons while muttering, inadvertently showing her concern for Li Muqing. Actually, she didn't notice either. Maybe she was just afraid that Li Muqing might hang up and she wouldn't have any good food to eat, right? Well, it must be like this. Chapter 9. 2 telephone calls. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. No need, just 1 magazine is enough, it's just for self-defense, not so much. The operation of Hulang is quite simple, even if Li Muqing has not touched a gun, he can easily learn it. After tentatively firing 2 shots, he also realized that this gun was not very effective. It was easy to hit at close range, but difficult to hit at a distance. Simply put, this gun has no tactile sensation. Pulling the trigger, after a delay of about 0.5 seconds, a laser beam flew out with a sizzle sound, without any recoil, and there was no sensation when it started. But as Li Muqing said, it's just self-defense, there's no need for long-range abilities, as long as there's killing power. After all, he won't go back to the real world to rob banks, he's not that foolish. And this, the boss can also take it. At this moment, Molly also took out a pair of gloves from the corner and handed them over. What is this? Li Muqing took the gloves and didn't find anything special. This is an electric glove. After putting it on and turning it on, a strong electric current can flow out from the fingertips of the glove, which is very useful for close combat, Molly explained. Electric gloves. Li Muqing is very interested. This kind of hidden thing is much more useful than a gun, at least there is no need to worry about being checked on the water meter. Alright, I'll go now. Next time I come, I should bring some fresh ingredients. In the next few days, you can see if you can get the electricity. I saw some refrigerators nearby that can be used to store food. Putting the wolf and gloves into the backpack, Li Muqing reminded the two women. In the later stages of the war, in addition to nuclear bombs and other items, electronic interference bombs like EMP were also rampant, causing devastating damage to the city's power facilities. So those bulky household appliances became unwanted garbage. Li Muqing had seen a few before and didn't know if they could be used. Turning around and walking out of the room, in a corner that the two women couldn't see, Li Muqing communicated with the wristband and started the teleportation program. A brief discomfort came, and when I opened my eyes again, I had arrived at the familiar room. Drip. The teleportation was successful. The energy consumption for this teleportation is 21%, and the remaining energy is currently 35%. Please replenish your energy as soon as possible, Master. As soon as it landed, the bracelet gave a thoughtful reminder. The energy is really not disabled. The energy that was only obtained after burning out a transformer last time was almost used up in just one round trip. Li Muqing couldn't help but sigh. But this time he doesn't need to rush to teleport back, he can slowly charge it. Hey, the last teleportation used 22% of the energy, but when it came back, it used 21%. Why is it different? Suddenly, Li Muqing keenly noticed the difference in energy consumption and frowned, thinking about the reason. Master, energy consumption will fluctuate depending on the items you carry. Normally, you will consume about 20% of your energy alone, while other items you carry will require additional energy consumption. The more items carried, the greater the energy consumed. The bracelet heard Li Muqing's question and gave a thoughtful answer. I see. Li Muqing suddenly realized, in the past, I carried a big bag of food and an engineering shovel, but when I came back, I only had a gun and a pair of gloves. That's why my energy consumption was different. Knowing the rules of energy consumption at least allowed Li Muqing to avoid some risks. If you encounter an emergency and need to teleport immediately, but find that there are too many things to carry and the teleportation fails, then it's not fun. Then, he took out the Jacoby 4 and electric gloves from his backpack and playfully played with them for a while. This is the first time in Li Muqing's life that he has come into contact with such novel things, and he is full of curiosity about them. However, after playing for a while, Li Muqing's stomach also made a gurgling sound. The sky outside had already darkened, and Li Muqing teleported to the Wasteland world for an afternoon. During this time, he also did not drip water, so it was not surprising that he was hungry. Just as she was about to go out and find something to eat, Li Muqing's phone rang. As soon as she looked at the caller ID on her phone, Li Muqing's eyebrows furrowed. Liang Xiaowan, the ex-girlfriend of Li Muqing. This woman is simply showing off her lack of face and skin to the extreme. Li Muqing and Liang Xiaowan were together during their freshman year. In their third year, Li Muqing's father passed away unexpectedly. Upon learning about Li Muqing's family situation, Liang Xiaowan began to gradually distance herself from him. In her senior year, when everyone went out for internships, she found a reason to break up with Li Muqing. At that time, Li Muqing didn't engage in any entanglement, it was considered a peaceful breakup. Recently, I don't know where Liang Xiaowan heard that Li Muqing's family was going to be demolished, so she started to entangle with Li Muqing again. Hello, Xiaowan. After sighing, Li Muqing still answered the phone. In fact, at the beginning, the relationship between the two was quite good. Although Li Muqing has now seen Liang Xiaowan's true face, he really can't hate her. After all, both of them had done what they should have done, and Li Muqing felt that she still owed her some. Qing, I will be on a business trip to Canyang tomorrow. Can you accompany me to have a meal? On the other end of the phone, there came Liang Xiaowan's faint cheerful voice. After graduation, Liang Xiaowan found a job in the city where they were studying, which was also within the province, about 200 kilometers away from Canyang City where Li Muqing was located, not too far. If it's just for dinner, of course it's not a problem, but... Xiaowan, we can't continue anymore. Li Muqing was determined and said directly. He knows Liang Xiaowan's true purpose. After all, Liang Xiaowan has mentioned it more than once before. Why? Is it that if your house is demolished and you have money, you won't look up to me anymore? Li Muqing, you're just a heartless person. Sure enough, Liang Xiaowan's 3 sentences cannot be separated from the matter of demolition. It's not like that, I've told you before. Although my house was demolished, I was compensated 30,000 yuan for the demolition fee. Although I still have a resettlement house, I don't know how many years it will take to move in. Before Li Muqing could finish speaking, Liang Xiaowan's tone on the other end of the phone changed. Humph, Li Muqing, you can deceive the children. Although your building is a bit old, it shouldn't have cost so much money. You just don't want me anymore. I can see you clearly. You scumbag, bad guy, you're not a good person, you. Ignoring 100 words here, faced with Liang Xiaowan's endless insults, Li Muqing was too lazy to listen anymore and hung up the phone, then blocked it. This woman is completely hopeless. However, his original good mood was completely disrupted by a phone call from Liang Xiaowan, which made him very depressed. At that moment, Li Muqing's phone rang again. Chapter 10. Solving a Big Problem. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Song. What's wrong? The person on the phone this time is Li Muqing's childhood friend and also his best friend, Wei Song. Wei Song grew up with Li Muqing and spent his time from elementary school to high school. But after high school, Wei Song thought he wasn't good at studying and didn't even take the college entrance examination, so he went out to explore. By the time Li Muqing graduated from university and returned to Cangyang, Wei Song had already used his savings from years of wandering and the skills he had learned to open a small Japanese-style tavern, which could be considered a small business owner. Haven't you eaten yet? A boss ordered something good today, and there's still some left. Come and have some together. Wei Song spoke up. Whenever he has something good in his store, he asks Li Muqing to come and grab a meal. He is definitely a good brother. No problem, we'll set off immediately. Li Muqing readily agreed, but suddenly realized that he seemed to need a favor from Wei Song. After this journey, Li Muqing realized that the simplest way to trade with people from the Wasteland world was to exchange food. Although there are still many ordinary foods in Li Muqing's grocery store, with Qin Si as guidance, Li Muqing knows that these foods cannot be taken out casually. Mainly because the information on the packaging will reveal his secrets. Although most foods can be manually unpacked, it is still too time-consuming for him to do this alone. So we still need to find some suppliers to directly customize this kind of food that does not require packaging in order to meet his needs. And Wei Song is also considered a person in the catering industry, so he should have some connections. You can also ask him. If it really works, then it's hard to say that we shouldn't take Wei Song to do something he loves tonight, which can be considered as giving him something in return. After all, I just picked up 60,000 yuan for nothing. Although I spent a few thousand yuan on equipment, the remaining money was enough for them to have a leisurely meal. Driving his little electric donkey out the door, Li Muqing almost crossed half of the city and arrived at a bustling commercial center. Then he crawled into an inconspicuous alley and finally walked into an even more inconspicuous small shop. Yes, this shop is a small one opened by Wei Song. There's no way, the rent for storefronts in bustling commercial areas is extremely high, and with Wei Song's savings, he can only open a store in such a corner. Entering the store, unlike the small and dilapidated storefront, the space is not small. There are about 10 tables and a bar counter next to the open kitchen, which can accommodate more than 10 people. It's already after work time, and almost half of the seats in the store are occupied. It seems that there are still many white-collar workers who are too lazy to come home to cook, indicating that the taste of this store is still good. In the open kitchen, a figure was busy. Even if she didn't see her face, Li Muqing knew it was Wei Song. Hello, what would you like to order? Here is the menu, and you can also scan the QR code to order. Li Muqing casually found a corner seat to sit down, and soon a waiter approached to inquire. However, he waved his hand and said, "No need to order. You go tell the boss that someone is here and he knows what to order." The waiter looked puzzled at the words, but Li Muqing ignored them and just waved his hand to let her leave. Most of the waiters here are part-time workers, changing from time to time. It's normal not to know him. Sure enough, after a while, the waiter came back again. This time, she put a cup of tea and a plate of delicate dim sum on the table, and left without speaking. Li Muqing just drank tea and ate dim sum. He sat for about half an hour until the clock pointed to 8 o'clock. People in the shop came and went several times. A figure in a chef's uniform appeared in front of him and sat down opposite with a large dinner plate. "Here, your favorite noodles, as well as these sushi, are all the top ingredients left today. I'll leave them all for you." Wei Song put down the food, and the two of them looked at each other with a smile, then began to take a big bite. Is business good? Fortunately, the main reason is that the craftsmanship is good and everyone recognizes it. Cut, what you make is just like that, sometimes it's not as good as me. Get out of here. What skill do you have? Don't think that a stir-fried tomato and scrambled eggs will be invincible in the world. Oh, I know more than that. No matter what, it's better than eating raw food here. The two of them were chatting while eating, and soon, 2 bowls of noodles and a plate of sushi were eaten by them. A good brother is like this. He has nothing to do with fighting and arguing, and his mood has improved a lot. By the way, let me ask you something. After eating and drinking enough, Li Muqing was finally about to get to the point. What's up, just say it directly. It's like this, I don't know if you know a nearby manufacturer of canned goods. I need a batch of canned goods recently to see if I can produce some according to my requirements. I need to pick up the goods in the next few days. Yes, Li Muqing plans to wholesale canned goods to the Wasteland world. After all, although this thing is rare in the Wasteland world, it can still be seen, and the packaging is simple, which is more hidden than some other things. Canned food. What do you want that thing for? It's not healthy and not delicious. Why do you plan to stop running grocery stores in the future and start transitioning to selling canned food? Wei Song was somewhat surprised. He and Li Muqing were also well versed in Li Muqing's background, which is why he asked this question. Don't worry, I'll be useful. Just say if you can handle it. Li Muqing is also difficult to explain, but the advantage of being a brother is that he doesn't need to explain too much. Sure enough, upon hearing what Li Muqing said, Wei Song did not continue to inquire. Instead, after thinking for a moment, he said directly. Coincidentally, I happen to have a friend who works on this. His factory is not big, and he specializes in OEM for those brands' goods, located in the suburbs of the city. Upon hearing about the play, Li Muqing quickly asked, how many types of canned goods are there? I didn't need much in the early stages, maybe only a few dozen boxes. Can he also make them? Furthermore, Li Muqing also made some requests, stating that without calling out, the packaging should be simpler and no font should be printed on it. As for canned food, it seems that there are both basic canned meat and canned fruit, with a wide variety and no problem with the quantity. It's just a matter of friends' words. Wei Song didn't pay any attention to Li Muqing's demands and immediately picked up the phone to call his friend. Then, while asking Li Muqing what other needs he had, he communicated with the other party. In just a few words, this matter has been finalized. Okay, 10 boxes each for pork, beef, lunch meat, pineapple, peaches, and pears. Use the simplest packaging for the cans, without printing. Just go pick up the goods tomorrow afternoon. Wei Song looked very confident and continued, the matter is settled. How do you want to thank me? Not to mention, he is a rising star in the catering industry in Sanyang City. He has many connections. What do you want me to treat you to? Just casually, I'll cover tonight's expenses. The big problem of canned food has been solved, and Li Muqing is naturally happy. He directly patted his chest and asked Wei Song to make his own offer.